Hello, all you uniform wearers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
There are a lot of uniform wearers in the world, so that works.
I hope they all come and listen to this.
Yep.
My name is Fletcher, about to say hello is Data.
Hey.
Today we will recap and discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 5, Episode 13, For the Uniform. Alternate title, Good Guys in Bad Lands.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever.
Who are the good guys, though? That's the question.
Oh, yeah. Is there really such a thing as a good guy? This episode possibly asks.
Or something, yeah.
Just in case this is your first time watching Star Trek DS9, we will attempt to only discuss spoilers up through this episode of this series. But other spoilers can happen, so proceed at your own risk. For the Uniform originally aired February 3rd, 1997. It was written by Peter Allen Fields. I feel like we haven't... He's written before, but we haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, no, I think the last episode before this one was Season 2.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, he did several in Season 2, including some of our favorites like Blood Oath.
Ooh.
And he did Duet in Season 1. He also did Dax in Season 1. So,
Oh, yeah.
And The Inner Light in The Next Generation, so...
But everybody loves Dax, so we're just wrong, apparently.
Yeah, it's true. He does one episode Season 5. In Season 6, he's going to do In the Pale Moonlight. And in Season 7, he will do The Dogs of War, and that is his DS9 career after this. So he gets one a season from 5 through the end.
And it's directed by Victor Lobel.
Yeah, Victor Lobel is apparently... He gets some good episodes of this show and of Voyager, although this is his first one. He gets Who Mourns for Morn in The Pale Moonlight, and then in Voyager, The Killing Game Part 2 and The Omega Directive. So he just pops in, does some cool directing, and then takes off.
Sure. All right. He got a cool name, too.
I like his wiki entry here notes, he was once married to Christina Pickles, as if that is someone that I should know.
The Lobel Pickles wedding. Who could forget that?
Yeah.
Sarah Clofton is not in this episode.
And neither is...
Alexander Siddig.
Yep, there you go.
But Aaron Eisenberg is in the episode.
Yep, you need somebody with big ears in this one.
Mm-hmm. So...
Oh, wait, there's another main cast member who does not appear.
Ooh, okay, let me think. I mean, we've got Cisco, we've got Dax, we've got Worf, we've got Odo, we've got... Oh, is it Quark?
It is Quark. Yeah, apparently there's it says, in a scene that was either deleted or unfilmed, O'Brien and Bashir discuss Eddington and their opinions of him. The scene also mentions that Starfleet Accounting gets bills from Quark. O'Brien tells Bashir a story Eddington told him about an Orion slave girl and a Tellurian, a quadrupedal species. And at the end of the scene, the pair realize they actually liked Eddington. And because this scene is deleted, Alexander Siddig and Armin Shimmerman both do not appear.
So, man, that would stink if they had to show up to work and didn't even get into the episode.
Yeah.
Diving right in. So, Captain Sisko beams down to the cave set, which today is on the planet Marva 4, where the captain intends to rendezvous with an informant who knows the location of Michael Eddington. And it is well established in Star Trek by now that captains just go on undercover missions all the time.
Yeah, duh.
There's nothing weird about this. A welder points Sisko in the right direction. He steps through a curtain, only to find a disruptor held to his head. It's the man himself, Eddington. The informant Singta has been marooned on a deserted planet in the Badlands. A just punishment for being a traitor, says Eddington with no sense of irony.
Well, it's also like, oh yeah, I like, it's not even like, I marooned him there for a while. It's like, oh no, he's gonna die there.
Yeah. Yeah, at first he's like, oh yeah, we don't kill. But it's like they're never going to go pick him up later. So.
It's like Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yep.
Maybe he'll make a rope of his own hair and get a tortoise or whatever the story was in Pirates.
Right. Maybe he'll discover a hidden cache of rum.
Yep.
Eddington taunts Sisko for the fact that he was right under his nose all the time, then launches into the standard boo-hoo the colonists rant that the Maquis love, which we know he doesn't really care anything about.
Yeah.
Eddington beams out, and Sisko beams back to the Defiant to chase him. Unfortunately, he wasn't wearing a live wire, or they would have really gotten the jump on Eddington. Would have been like, oh my gosh, that's Eddington? 50 guys beam down and arrest him.
Well, he was just planning to meet this guy with information about Eddington. Who would have thought that Eddington himself would show up?
True. Seems like a real missed opportunity and a real risk for Eddington to just
pop in there.
Yeah, poke his head out like that. Somehow, Eddington's ship gets way ahead of the Defiant, even though they were like, he beamed up like 1 second after, but...
Sisko took like a nap, and then...
Yeah. So, Captain, did you want us to go after the ship? Oh, shoot! Yep, you're right. And they're not going to catch up before Eddington hits the Badlands, so Sisko calls help from Captain, not Colonel, Sanders of the starship Malinche on their new holocommunicator. Look at this amazing device they have gotten.
Yeah, it's... So, okay, the holocommunicator. This is the first appearance of the holocommunicator. It's, as I say, as if it's going to appear a bunch more times.
Right.
I think it appears exactly one more time. Spoiler.
Uh-huh.
And it's just... So, okay, Ronald D. Moore claims credit for creating the holocommunicator. He says that's something I'd been pushing for because I think it's just so absurd that in the 24th century they have holodeck technology that allows them to recreate ancient Rome, but everyone talks to each other on television monitors. It's just so lame. The view screens have been around for over 30 years. Can't we move on to something a little more interesting? But it's like pulling teeth. And then Ira Stephen Bear, in response, or related to that, is like, yeah, view screen scenes are always difficult to pull off. The longer they are, the more boring they are, and having a character talk to someone on a view screen is very distracting. It did work in this episode. We never could have had Eddington on the view screen for all of his scenes. It would have been dramatic death. I honestly don't know that, like, guy standing in one spot and talking to you is much better than guy on
right.
TV screen talking to you.
Yeah, from a consumer technology point of view, this device has pretty much no advantages.
I feel like it has disadvantages, in fact, because it's like, with the view screen, you could like see stuff going around in the background of the bridge. Now you just see the one guy, so if someone else on the bridge wants to talk, like, can you even hear them? Or...
Yeah, and you have to like go back to the corner where the communicator is.
Yeah, and it's like Sisko has to turn around and ignore everything else happening on his bridge to talk to the guy behind him. And also, both other people he talks to, while Sisko is in a chair, the captain of the Malinche is like standing up and pushing buttons or whatever, and so is like Eddington. So I'm like, so does the captain of the Malinche like get up and walk to a different part of the bridge to have this discussion?
Yeah, it must be. I mean, I don't know. I think the correct way to implement this technology would be to have it like more like a holodeck, where just the person can walk around the bridge like they're really there.
Oh, interesting. Maybe. I mean, I don't know that like for other Starfleet captain, that makes sense. If you're going to be running up against like enemies that you want to talk to on your view screen, I don't know that you want them able to walk around and look at your bridge.
Well, this seems to be some kind of proprietary Starfleet technology.
Yeah, which actually just makes it worse. Because It's like, okay, so the people we're talking to, do I face forward or do I turn around and face the other way? Do they have this thing?
But somehow Eddington got his hands on one, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, this is brand new, only a few people have it. Eddington went out of his way and like, oh man, I'm sure glad that we got one of these and that I am the one who has it on my ship.
O'Brien literally like installed it 6 hours ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know how Eddington has one.
So, The note in the wiki says, despite all of this, the holocommunicator was not seen as successful in this episode. Something alluded to by Gary Hutzel, saying it was a terrible idea from the get-go. The idea was to create this 3D image, but TV is a 2D medium, so it's hard to show that it's 3D. So you have to move the camera around so the audience can see that it's 3D, but then it could look like the guy beamed in. So you have to find a way to deal with that. It created all these problems that the writers hadn't thought about, and it missed the whole point of why Gene Roddenberry wanted a view screen, so you could avoid unnecessary expense.
Right. Although, I mean, when I look at people when I'm watching TV, I assume those are three-dimensional people.
Yeah.
I don't need to, like, have you move the camera around to prove it to me.
I guess in this case, since you're not seeing a person, you're supposedly seeing like the holographic projection of a person, then there might be a question of like, is that 2D? Is it 3D? I honestly think now that we talk about it, it would be cooler if it was like a freestanding 2D hologram of that person. Like that would look cool when it looks like them head on and then the camera pans around and it's like a line segment.
Right. That could be a cool effect. Like an unnecessary and expensive sounding effect.
But... Well, yeah, completely unnecessary and expensive sounding. Yeah. But also, I don't feel like it could be that much more expensive than the view screen thing. Because he's like, oh, that defeats the point of... And I'm like, does it really? Because all you're doing is you're having a guy stand there and you're talking to him. And there's like the fade in and fade out. But that can't be any different from like, transporter effects and stuff that you've been using for a very long time. So I don't feel like it could be that much more expensive.
Yeah, I don't know. But then Eddington's ship turns around and heads straight for them. And then all the Defiant's computer systems start going down. Eddington calls in through the holocommunicator and explains that he planted a computer virus on the Defiant a long time ago. Or I assume a long time ago.
Well, when he was there, however long ago that was.
Eddington does some more villain banter while his ship shoots up the Defiant, then leaves them to limp home.
Yeah, okay.
Uh-huh.
So the point was that they weren't going to make it to the Badlands before the Malinche could intercept them. But by attacking the Defiant, he wastes more time before he can get to the Badlands.
Yeah, whatever happened to the Malinche? Did he just fly around it, or
they have to come back and tow the Defiant? But I feel like they could have gotten Eddington first.
Yeah,
like, nobody else was going to come and attack the Defiant in like the 5 minutes it took them to do that.
I think Starfleet is right to not be very happy about the Michael Eddington capture operation.
Yeah, there's a lot of ball dropping happened here.
Yeah. So back on Deep Space Nine, O'Brien predicts 2 weeks to fix the Defiant, possibly including miracle worker padding. I don't know.
I just always assume.
Right. Odo reports that he's found more viruses in the station computers and tells Sisko to remind Starfleet Command that they brought in Eddington because they didn't trust Odo.
Also, those might be all the viruses. Maybe not. We don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I found 2 of them. Could be more. I don't know. But Odo finally gets his little moment of satisfaction there.
Yeah, I wonder if Sisko's really going to do it, or he's like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Worf reports that the Maquis hijacked a couple of Bolian freighters containing several thousand tons of selenium and rhodium nitrite. Commander Dax is analyzing what they could make with that, but apparently not very well.
Nope.
Also, what are the Bolian guys okay? Did they get marooned on a planet? What happened to them? I want to know this stuff.
I was looking up rhodium nitrite, but there's only rhodium nitrate.
Oh my gosh.
So they're
well, this is the future. They have rhodium nitrite.
They came up with the nitrite in the future, obviously.
Then Captain Sanders comes in and says that Starfleet is taking Sisko off the Eddington case. You're off the case, Sisko.
Turn in your badge and you're gone.
I need your badge and your phaser. He hasn't been having much success, and it seems like Eddington just knows him too well.
I mean, I guess that's true. Eddington knows him. We find out Sisko's like, I had him over for dinner, even took him out to see a baseball game on the holodeck. So he knows he likes baseball. That can't be good.
I just imagine like them at a baseball game together, and then he turns and gives like a "Have you ever heard of Darth Plagueis the Wise?" speech to Sisko. I can't believe I couldn't tell.
So this Captain Sanders guy, apparently Ira Stephen Bear specifically went out and got Eric Pierpoint for this role because the intention was to have Captain Sanders become a recurring character through the 6th season, maybe even kill him off later in that season for, dramatic effect.
Sure.
But Bear just never got around to putting that idea into action. And so, spoiler, Sanders is never seen again.
Oh.
Although the actor will come back to play a bad guy in some episodes of Enterprise.
Oh.
So,
but yeah, Sisko shakes his hand and tells him good hunting. Then Sisko goes to the holosuite to take out his frustrations on the punching bag, while Dax gives him some therapy.
This is one of those things where I'm did you need a holosuite for this? Couldn't you just have a punching bag in your quarters? But I guess that's the advantage. Yeah. You don't have to clutter up your room with all this crap when you can just go to the holodeck and get it.
Yeah, exactly. This is the advantage of the holosuite.
Don't they have a gym? I mean, where does Worf give his classes in the holosuite?
I mean, yeah, didn't Nog say something about the gym? Or
yeah, they totally were going to the gym, and yeah.
I guess just he wanted some privacy or something.
Maybe.
You don't want to be getting all aggro on the punching bag with all those people around.
Not when you're the captain.
All right. Just as Dax is about to convince Sisko to let it go, Kira calls in with more Eddington news. The Maquis have attacked a Cardassian colony with cobalt diselenide, which is deadly to Cardassians but harmless to anyone else. Oh shoot, says Dax. Yep, they could have totally used those stolen chemicals to make that. Kind of missed that.
Yeah, man, that wasn't on my list. My bad.
Yeah. And they have enough left over for way more attacks. And the only ship in the area to stop them is the Malinche. Oh, not the only ship, says Sisko.
So it's just, do we really have no other ships on the Cardassian border?
Right.
This seems like a lapse. This is all those times when Kirk's Enterprise was the only one within range of Earth and available to help. It's really? Really? No other ships around Earth, you say?
Maybe, because this is not long after First Contact, so maybe we're kind of short-shipped for a while. After the whole Borg invasion of Earth where 1 million ships got blown up.
Yeah, that'll do it. That's a good point. I mean, man, the Defiant just recovered from that, and now we got this whole other thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Defiant is just barely ready to go out again.
Yeah, how long has it been at this point?
Oh yeah, we've this is I mean, it seems like almost all in one day.
Which I'm it was gonna take 2 weeks to fix the Defiant, but it's we got most of the stuff working already.
Yeah. Well, maybe maybe Sisko's oh, we're not the only ship, and it's cut to 2 weeks later. Or something. So yeah, the comms and bridge controls aren't working, so they'll have to be replaced by Nog yelling into a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, this is so strange. Because he has a walkie-talkie. Does it need to be Nog? Could it not be Sisko being I'm just gonna have an open line to engineering on a walkie-talkie, so that they hear the order at the same time that everyone on the bridge does? And why exactly? I'm listening to Nog the whole episode, and sometimes it makes sense when Kira's "Hey, engineering, where's that such and such?" I was okay, that's the kind of message that you want Nog to communicate to engineering. But most of what Nog says is engineering, bridge, we're going to warp 6. I'm so does Dax typing that in on the control not tell them that you?
Well, they said the controls on the bridge weren't working or something like that. So they had to call that stuff into engineering.
Yeah, okay. It's just
is what I got from that. I don't know.
But also, apparently, the new holo communicator works on a totally different system because it works fine.
Right.
When all other communication, including within the ship communication, does not work. I was stick a holo communicator down there in engineering then, and
Right. No, they only have one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. I don't have a nitpick of the week for this episode. that might, I don't know if that counts.
It's so, I don't know if they just wanted to give Nog something to do or what, but it's such a weirdly specific thing that it's like, oh yes, communications is out between the bridge and engineering, but we can use this walkie-talkie thing. So I'm like, well, give everybody walkie-talkie things instead of communicator badges, right, and we're done. Like,
yeah, well, they mumbled some excuse about all orders should be coming from the same voice or something like that.
Yeah.
And also, I just like they'll take any excuse to bring Nog into the episode.
I assume they're paying the dude, so yeah.
Right? As opposed to Shakar, who...
Yeah, he's too expensive. Yeah. Now that we've got Nog back for this season, we can't afford Shakar anymore.
Yeah, so Nog is a little unsettled by the thought of an exploding bridge, but he's ready to go.
Yeah, I do like that. It's like, oh, wait, what? Explosions?
It's like stuff is going to be exploding all around you. People are going to be dying.
So there's like, you're in Starfleet now. Suck it up. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, explosions. I'm all about it.
Yep. And as you said, the holo communicator is working so that we can talk to Eddington.
Yeah, how much less dramatic would the episode be if like that also was not working and
they had to talk to Eddington through Nog?
Or they just can never communicate with Eddington and he's like, oh, man, Sisko's just ignoring all of my calls. What's going on?
Nog is like, he says something about Inspector Javert? Huh? Dax tells Sisko that he's becoming more like Curzon all the time and tells him to remember this next time she wants to go fulfill a blood oath or something.
It's true. He does always come down on her for doing this crazy stuff. Rightfully so, I think, in most cases. But now she's like, I've just like earned a crazy adventure because I'm not coming down on you about your crazy adventure.
That's right. She's got a freebie in the bag now.
Yep.
The Defiant almost crashes into a docking pylon when they take off, but they avoid it just in time and are on their way to the Badlands.
Did we really have to go straight at the station after leaving the station? Like,
yeah, it's like they turned like 270 degrees. Because it's like they came out and they turned around and they just kept turning around and then they were pointed at the docking pylon. I was like, what's the logic behind this?
Yeah.
Maybe the thrusters on one side weren't working or something. When they get to the Badlands, they detect a Maquis raider. Eddington calls them on the holo communicator and sends over a copy of Les Miserables, comparing Sisko to Inspector Javert, the police inspector who spent 20 years chasing Jean Valjean for stealing a loaf of bread. This situation is morally equivalent to that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, I only like took up arms against the government that I was sworn to uphold and like stole a bunch of very expensive equipment and committed all sorts of treason.
It's like, well, what if your family doesn't like bread?
What if they like industrial replicators?
They like class 4 industrial replicators.
Yeah. So apparently we visited the Badlands in that first episode of Voyager, right? So CGI was used to create the Badlands for that episode. And the note says, but, quote, no one really liked that CGI. So they redid effects to create Badlands for this episode. And in this case, it was created by the visual effects team pouring liquid nitrogen, which, quote, boils furiously at room temperature, onto a piece of black velvet.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Some creative special effects there. Although, we've seen the Badlands in Deep Space Nine before, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I feel like... Yeah, I feel like... Because, like, Kira and Dukat go to meet her buddy in the Badlands in that one episode.
Yep, exactly.
That's the one that sticks out to me. Also, according to this note, the whole stuff on the Defiant Bridge with, like, the crew operating things manually and having to relay communication through Nog, it was all written to be an homage to a similar scene in the 1958 Robert Wise movie, Run, Silent, Run. Oh, I'm sorry, Run, Silent, Run Deep. Ira Stephen Bear commented, great idea. I loved it. We wanted it to feel like a submarine movie, and we kept talking about Run, Silent, Run Deep for those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, well, in all, like, because I think that's the way it really works on ships, is the captain will give orders, and then a million people will start to, like, relay those orders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it turns out that the Maquis raider they detected was just a probe with a fake warp signature. Fooled again. When they get out of the Badlands, they find that the Malinche has been ambushed and is dead in space, after also falling for a similar ruse. So these guys are just...
So, like, there was a whole trick with, like, a ship that pretended to be in distress, but then when they put their shields down, attacked them. You guys really should be running, like, more paranoid than this.
Right. Well, I think they said they shot them with some kind of focused beam that took their shields down or something. I don't remember.
I thought they took their shields down to, like, beam survivors out or something, and then they shot them with the beam.
Either way, yeah, these guys, you need to be way more cautious. It's like, what are the odds that we're going on this mission, and then suddenly we get a distress call?
Do we actually see the Malinche at any point in this episode? Okay.
Yeah, it's like an Excelsior.
Okay. So it's just like, you know, what... these guys are taking out Excelsior-class ships. It's messed up.
Yeah. But they were able to intercept a coded message from the Maquis, which Captain Sanders gladly sends over to the Defiant.
It's like, no, we're going to keep that to ourselves.
Odo analyzes it and finds that it's a simple Breen nursery rhyme. But Odo remembers a motto of Michael Eddington's. The best place to hide something is in plain sight. From this, he deduces that it's a signal for a rendezvous at Portus 5, a Breen settlement where the Maquis might be renting some cold storage for their bioweapons.
I do love that Sisko's like, oh, so it's in the Breen system? And Odo's like, well, or a system that's actually close to us, where the Breen, like, live. And he's like, yes. And then Sisko later is like, let's see what's going on in the Breen system. Right. Like, no. Why are you so obsessed with going to the Breen system?
Luckily, Worf is, I think, on top of things. Because he asks him, like, do we have any, like, intelligence drones near Portus 5? And Worf, without even having to look at his screen, immediately knows that there's 2 of them.
Yep, he's on it.
And that's when Sisko says, like, okay, I want to see who's coming and going from the Breen system. And Worf is like, you mean Portus 5, but okay. Yeah, I'll look at what those drones saw. But Odo's hunch turns out to be true, and they're able to pick back up the trail of the Maquis. They decide the next target must be one of 2 systems, and Sisko figures it'll probably be the less likely one, because Eddington's just a hipster like that.
Eddington will know that we know that it's a better chance at this other system. So, but he won't know that I know that he knows that we know. So,
right.
This is what we'll do.
Sure. Yeah, this is... it's like, well, he will be expecting him to go here, so he'll go over here just to do that. But luckily, yeah, he's not going to think 2 layers deep on this.
Nope.
Yeah, so, yeah, they're right. When they get there, they find that it's too late. The bioweapon has already been deployed on the planet. And look, there's 2 Maquis ships. The Defiant quickly blows up one of the ships, and the other one turns around and attacks one of the transport ships, evacuating Cardassian civilians from the planet.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, we're just going straight for blowing these ships up, huh? I thought we were trying to capture Eddington, but all right then.
Yeah, I guess it's lucky that Eddington wasn't on the ship that got blown up.
Yeah.
Then Eddington calls up with the old, "It's too late, Superman. You can either catch me or save these innocent people." Obviously, Sisko saves the Cardassian ship.
Yeah, the thing is, like, when they have the shot where they break off to go save the Cardassians, they're literally, like, 5 feet behind the Maquis. I was like, you could just shoot them. Like, you blow up that other one real fast. You could blow them up and then go and save the civilians. It would take, like, literally 1 extra second.
He could have been like, quantum torpedoes, and then turned around and, yeah, help those people. Then Sisko goes down to the mess hall to read Les Miserables. Talking it through with Dax, he starts to have a brainwave.
I do like Dax just going off on a huge tangent about why she does not like Victor Hugo.
Right. So, yeah, his heroines are two-dimensional, and yeah, she couldn't finish The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is a big, long excuse so that Sisko can explain the plot of Les Miserables to her, and therefore us. When he could have just been like, have you ever read Les Miserables? And she could have just been like, no.
She could have been like, yes, and then it was like, okay, well then I don't need to explain to you, and the audience would never know.
So I don't know if this was a Peter Allen Fields inserting his own commentary on Victor Hugo or what.
Maybe.
But Sisko figures Eddington is a crazy person who sees himself as a dashing romantic hero like Robin Hood, protecting poor downtrodden people from evil oppressors. And heroes like that always wind up facing a villain so diabolical that they have no choice but to make one final grand self-sacrifice for the greater good. So basically, just to recap, his strategy is Michael Eddington has internalized fiction tropes so thoroughly that they can use that to manipulate his behavior.
Yep. Like he will like try to martyr himself for the cause, and that's when we get him.
Mm-hmm.
We let him martyr himself, and everybody's happy.
Sisko has Worf rig up a couple of quantum torpedoes with trilithium. You know, the stuff that blows up stars.
Yeah. Like Tully and Soren had a lot of trouble getting trilithium once upon a time. And now it's just like, oh yeah, we carry that stuff.
Yeah, it was only at this one laboratory and they had to go rob it. But I guess it's just sitting around on the Defiant. I guess now they just always want to be prepared in case they need to blow up a star.
I mean, I would want to be.
Right. Then he sets course for the nearest Maquis colony, or Federation colony that the Maquis is fighting for. These terms are like...
I'm unclear, yeah.
And sends a broadcast threatening to shoot the trilithium into the atmosphere and make the planet uninhabitable to all human life for the next 50 years. So apparently that's another thing that trilithium does.
This is just like the gift that keeps on giving. It does everything.
Right. You could use it to blow up the entire star, or you could just make it a planet uninhabitable.
So it's very it's like snake oil. It's good for what ails you.
Sure. Everybody on the bridge is like, wait, what? They get ready to shoot the torpedoes, and Eddington calls up and is like, no, you're bluffing. So Sisko has Worf launch the torpedoes, and the atmosphere of the planet starts turning green. The uninhabitable color.
Yeah. Well, uninhabitable by humans. Cardassians are good.
Right. They get ready to head off to the next planet, and finally Eddington is like, okay, call off the attack, and I'll give over all the bioweapons and turn myself in.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, you mean the thing that you could easily make more of? Because it literally seemed to take you like 5 minutes to steal the stuff and make them. I don't feel like this is going to be a good enough thing. And then Sisko's like, oh, no. I want you.
They pinky promise not to steal any more stuff. Or just like, let's not have the Bolian freighters with that stuff on it go near the Badlands anymore.
Bolians, you're not allowed to go that way anymore.
Sisko does a little captain's log where he explains that it all works out because the Federation and Cardassian colonists can just trade planets that got bioweapons.
Yeah. Nobody will care. Everyone will be happy.
And since the Cardassians lost 2 planets and the Federation only lost 1, that still works out pretty good for the Federation colonists.
And because of this, it was totally not like a crime against humanity or whatever.
Right. They bring Eddington back to the station where Odo happily takes him into custody. Dax asks Sisko if he cleared the bioweapon attack with Starfleet first, and he says, I knew I forgot to do something.
Ha ha ha. That wacky guy.
I mean, how he doesn't go to prison for the rest of his life for this, I don't know, but they walk off together with Dax saying she likes it when the bad guy wins. The end.
Yeah, that's the thing that she says at the end, where it's like, yeah, Sisko, you were totally the villain of this episode, and I'm into it.
Yes, let's make no mistake. You were the evil person, and so am I.
Well, let me so, okay. Ronald D. Moore is quoted about Sisko's saying that, like, a lot of discussion was generated by what Sisko does here. He says, now we've stirred it up and let people really argue about this. Sisko took an action and took a step that probably Picard wouldn't have. I'll pause there to say, no, I don't think Picard would have done this. I will agree with Ronald D. Moore on that point.
I'm pretty sure Picard would not have done this.
And so he says, that's what made it an interesting episode. I could see Kirk taking this action. It seemed to me like what Sisko did was basically level the playing field again. Eddington goes and poisons some worlds, puts some stuff in the atmosphere that makes the Cardassians have to leave. He didn't destroy the ecosystem of the biosphere because he wanted the worlds for the Maquis. Sisko just did the same thing, but it did it to the Maquis and rendered some worlds uninhabitable for human life. It was pretty drastic action. He's out on the frontier and has some difficult decisions to make, and it solved the problem. He pulled Eddington off his ship, he got results. I respect him for doing it. It was a bold decision, and it worked. I think sometimes characters have to do the right thing, even if it's difficult, and make a tough decision, and not worry so much about keeping their hands clean, and not be obsessed with what the rules are sometimes. I think Kirk was more willing to bend a rule every once in a while to serve the greater good, and I think that's what Sisko did.
Sure. Yeah, this sounds like a completely unproblematic philosophy to me.
I like this idea. It's like, oh, he's out on the frontier. He has to make these kind of decisions. And I'm like, but he literally could have called Starfleet, as Dax indicates. It's like, oh, did you call and get permission to do that? Because it would have been the easiest thing in the world to call and be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Can I get, what does the brass think about this?
Yeah. I can't imagine them saying yes to that. But
no, they would not have.
I don't know. I don't know, maybe.
It's just, it seems, I mean, I said it before, this feels like crimes against humanity-ish.
Yeah.
Or like war crimes, basically.
Yeah.
And we're just like, left at the end of the episode to be like, oh, that's Sisko and Dax, ha ha ha.
And it's just not, it's not clear. I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that, like, you can breathe this stuff for a little bit and be fine. Like, you have to get off the planet in, like, a week or something. And then, not that just they deployed this weapon and a million people immediately started dying.
The children first, because they're the smallest and
right.
get the most of it. Yeah, so it's... Yeah, that's a good point, actually. They were telling them to evacuate, and then when they got there, no one had started evacuating. They're like, oh, you're bluffing. And he's like, oh, am I? And then he gives Worf the order, and Worf clearly does not want to follow this order, because you don't follow orders to commit war crimes and then pretend that you're like, I was just following orders. Right. But eventually Worf does it, and so I'm like, okay, Worf, you're also culpable now.
Yep. But let's just say nobody died. I think they don't want us to think too hard about this.
It was just like their property and livelihood and stuff that was lost, and
right. But they can go now take all the Cardassian property and their farms and stuff. So it all works out. And don't ask any more questions.
Yeah, it's one of, and maybe I am just too used to Picard, where it was like Sisko's like, oh, I've got a plan. And you don't think the plan is to, like, also do the super evil stuff that the bad guys are doing, and then just be like, it's even now. Like, that's the weirdest justification, where it's like, yes, but now it's evenly evil.
Right. I mean, you remember the time that Captain Picard trapped those two aliens in that force field or whatever?
Yep.
As just a brief demonstration. Like, that's about as bad as Captain Picard gets.
Yeah, he's like, see, you imprisoned me, and now you understand why being imprisoned really sucks. And they're like, oh, man, you're right. And he let them out 5 seconds later.
Right. Just to teach them. Apparently, those aliens had never learned the lesson before that being imprisoned is not fun.
Nope.
So Picard had to educate them on that.
So, yeah. Sisko... People talk about, certain other episodes, and Sisko, the shady thing Sisko is forced to do. And this is the one where I'm like, I don't think he had to do this. He could easily have taken out Eddington without doing this, but...
or you know what? Save Eddington for another day.
Well, I don't know that you can do that, because Eddington is out there, like, poisoning planets or whatever.
I guess that's
true. So
it's
kind of an urgent that we need to take care of this sort of thing. But...
Yeah, they could escalate pretty quickly to an all-out war, so...
Also, we act like Deep Space Nine doesn't have a bunch of runabouts that they were the only ships they used for several seasons in all sorts of, like, combat situations. Like, you could take these runabouts out. They might be a match for a Maquis Raider, maybe not, but if you, like, team them up with the Defiant, it might help with some of the shortcomings the Defiant is experiencing.
Yes, good point.
And that way, when he's like, oh, you have to save them or stop me, you can be like, hey, runabout, go save them, and we'll stop him.
Yeah. That would have been some good thinking ahead on their part.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, there is one other ship in the system, the one that only works halfway. And I'm just like, I mean, you have several ships. I guess we've just forgotten about them now. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Hans Beimler did a writing pass on the episode. Maybe he's the one who secretly hates Victor Hugo. I don't know. But he just mentions that, yeah, he did it, and it was a pleasure because Peter Fields was on the show for many years, and he knows the show quite well. He did a really nice job. I love Cisco shows. I love shows that deal with being the captain and what that means. So, I guess he...
Yeah.
It notes that this episode takes place 8 months after For the Cause, and it also established that there was 18 months that passed between The Search Part 1 and For the Cause. Because that's how long Michael Eddington is said to have been on the station, was 18 months.
Sure. Someone somewhere has compiled this timeline into something meaningful, I assume.
Probably, yeah. And there's one more note about Peter Allen Fields, which I'd forgotten was in here. So,
okay.
We talked about how he's written several episodes but hadn't written one for a while. That's because he was actually a co-producer during season 1 and a producer during season 2 of Deep Space Nine when he wrote several episodes for the show. But at this point, he's retired from the television business, and I guess they got him back out of retirement to write this episode.
They pulled him back out of retirement.
Yep.
They went to a cabin out in the middle of the woods and found him chopping logs for his firewood. And they're like, "We need you back."
They're like, we need like the only person who's written episodes for us who's won a Hugo Award for writing an episode of Star Trek. So come on, let's do this.
He's like, "Okay, I'll do it."
And then he shows up. He's like shaved his big mountain man beard off, and
right. Yes.
What else is it? So in his career, he also wrote for Knight Rider, Xena Warrior Princess, and Jake and the Fat Man.
Ooh.
Yeah. I wonder if he knew what's his name when he was on Jake and the Fat Man. J. Michael Straczynski.
Yeah, I was like, I know it was that guy whose biography you read.
Yeah. Oh, he also wrote several. Before Star Trek, he was a lawyer, and then he wrote several episodes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. So this guy's had an interesting little career.
Wow. It's like, I don't really like being a lawyer. TV writer sounds more profitable.
Yeah, let's go for that. Depending on what kind of lawyer you are, might be correct.
Yeah. We can't do much of a Bashir watch this week since there was no Bashir.
Yeah, no Bashir. How long does this episode take? It's unclear.
Yeah, I don't even. I 5 days. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like a guess at this point. Like, it could have been a couple days. It could have been like there could have been a week between when the Defiant was damaged and when they took the Defiant back out. Yeah, I don't think it's clear.
Yeah, so put it down as a question mark. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, so for the uniform...
I think we can say less than 2 weeks. Or up to 2 weeks or something. I don't know.
Okay, we'll call it that. Oh man, sorry, I'm still on Peter Allen Fields' page. Apparently, Robert Hewitt Wolf comments that Fields fought in the Korean War, having joined the Marine Corps at 16 after lying about his age. He was taken prisoner, released by his captors, returned home, only to then be drafted and sent back to Korea.
Wow. So he couldn't be like... What?
I don't know. That's the weirdest story.
He can be like, okay, no, I did go to Korea. I lied about my age. Can I not have to go again? Did they just get him in a loophole or something?
It's technicality.
It's like, well, that first time we sent you to Korea, that wasn't legal, so that doesn't count.
Yep.
And all right, so I guess let's do a review. What do you think of For the Uniform?
I'm glad that we brought Eddington back. I think it's nice to have this dramatic standoff between Eddington and Sisko, where Sisko's taking it super personal after what happened, because I feel like you would. They choose to go about it in a weird way and try to do this Les Mis metaphor. Not even it's hard to even call it a metaphor because they're hanging a lantern on it so hard.
Uh-huh.
It also feels a little bit it feels a little bit like rushed to me. It's like, oh, last time we saw Michael Eddington, he's like, I'm off to be the leader of the Maquis or whatever. And now it's like, I'm the leader of and then we get the one episode. I feel like you could have stretched this out a little bit, like have some Michael Eddington Maquis teases over the course of a season before the final confrontation. That it just feels like, we got to know Michael Eddington for however many episodes, and then it was like, oh no, oh my gosh, he's a traitor, and then it's like, oh, okay, he's done now. Or I feel like it was just really sudden, and
right.
And the Maquis always kind of feels like that, because it's like we forget about them for long periods of time, and then they bounce back in and like for one episode, and then they're gone again.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe that's.
It feels like they used to kind of name check them a little bit more often.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe at this point, like the writers are running out of ideas for what to do with the Maquis, so they're like, okay, well, the last thing we've got is Michael Eddington. Let's bring him back in, throw him in here. I guess they're using the Maquis on Voyager now, though, so maybe they're saving interesting Maquis things for that. I don't know, but. So yes, this episode has some good points, a lot of stuff that I like about it, and then a lot of stuff that just seems like bizarre and pointless, like the holographic thing, like the Nog sending messages thing. It's just so random and pointless that it's hard for me to place this, because conceptually I think it's cool. I like the idea of it. I think that the execution is strange. And like I said, a little bit like sudden and over very quickly, where it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're done then. So it's hard for me to place this. I think I will have to put it just above the line at Lieutenant Commander. I like the episode fine. I don't like what Cisco does. I feel like I said, I feel like this, these are war crimes. Like, he should be prosecuted and in prison after this.
Right.
I don't like that they're like, oh yeah, he can do that shit and get away with it. Kind of like when Worf was on Risa, and he can just do shit and get away with it and nobody cares. But at the same time, I like that that they're giving us this character, our main character more or less, who's like, oh yeah, he's willing to do that. He's willing to do some shit like that.
Right.
So that does make the show more interesting. Like it increases the potential for the kind of crazy things you could do on the show to make it like, oh, this is not Picard. He will get his hands dirty. At the same time, it's like, it feels less Star Trek-y to do it that way, when it's just like, I don't agree with Ronald D. Moore for one thing. I don't think Kirk does this.
Right.
I think Kirk stops short of the war crimes, but so it feels kind of strange, and like, oh man, this is a weird Star Trek now, that the captain who we're supposed to side with is like, oh yeah, I'll just poison the atmosphere of an entire planet because I'm pissed off. Sure. Why not? So yeah, it's strange, but I think I like the writing potential that it opens up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about they definitely could have teased out, because it seemed like they were really setting up Michael Eddington as this big villain, and there's a lot more potential there. So yeah. And just as for just like Cisco isn't Picard, like, yep, Cisco is not Picard. That is definitely the takeaway from this episode. Like, Cisco will deploy weapons of mass destruction against Federation citizens and, like, salt the earth of an entire planet.
Yep.
It is just so big and bonkers. I kind of like it. Although, yeah, all nitpicks and complaints about this episode are valid, but I don't know. There's just... there's something fun about it, and at some point it just kind of breaks your brain, the stuff that happens.
Yeah.
And you can't, like, it feels silly to complain about stuff anymore. So I don't know, I enjoy it, and I'll go ahead and give it a full Commander.
Yeah, nice.
Because
it's funny you say the brain breaking thing, because literally, like, despite having seen this episode many times, still when he launches the torpedoes, I'm expecting the reveal that it was like, it's a bluff. What he launched was not really the stuff that destroys the atmosphere or whatever. Like, I keep expecting the turn, and it doesn't come. It's just like, oh no, he did that.
Nope, he did that. And I'm thinking back to the rules of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
When Sisko chewed out Worf for firing on what turned out to be an empty ship or whatever. But just because of the possibility it might have been a civilian ship that decloaked right in the middle of combat, right in front of you. He got yelled at for that. But now he's just like, oh yeah, let's just, put bioweapons in this planet's atmosphere. And then I kind of think that's what's going through Worf's head when he like looks at the captain. He's like, what?
Maybe it matters. We had the mention that it's unclear if this is a Maquis colony. Like who does this planet belong to?
Right.
Is this one of the planets that like the Cardassians got in the treaty and the settlers refused to leave? Or is this like a planet that they're allowed to live on, and this is known to be where Maquis live? Or yeah. On some level, if it's a planet that belongs to Cardassians, then making the atmosphere so that Cardassians can live there and other unwelcome people can't, I guess maybe I'm like, okay, well, although the planets were given over to the Cardassians as part of a treaty. Tomorrow, a new treaty could happen that would give the planets somewhere else, and you've just kind of screwed that. So even then, it's still pretty messed up.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if the crew thought the whole time that it was just some elaborate bluff, and that Sisko was going to reveal it's like, oh, we didn't really do that or something. So that's why they like were going along with his orders. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody should have objected here. I just feel so strongly. Like they're all like they all look at him and he's like, "What? Do it." And I'm like, isn't this the part where like the first officer is supposed to step in and be like, "Dude, this is messed up. We can't do that." Or where Worf is supposed to be like, "No, I can't do this. I'm not going to fire that weapon." They're just all like, Sisko like gives them the glare and is like, "Do it," and they're like, "Okay, man, whatever you say."
Yeah, I just think Worf just must be thinking, like, because this happened a million times on Next Gen, too, where it's like, it seemed like one thing was happening, but really, it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, and the lesson in those is, like, you have to trust the captain that he's, going to do what's right.
Yep.
That is not the lesson here, I don't think.
Right. I think they all learned a valuable lesson that when Sisko says he's going to do something, that's the thing he's doing.
Yeah, a lot less subtlety with Sisko than with Picard.
Right. And he is the kind of guy who will just drop bioweapons on an entire planet.
I feel like if Riker is your first officer here, then this is the moment where it's like, okay, we may have to have a mutiny. Like this is that messed up, and he'd be like, "Mr. Worf, I want you to escort the captain to his quarters until there can be a hearing or whatever." But in this case, there's like, "Okay, Sisko, we're with you."
Right, and then at the end, Dax is totally into it.
Dax is weirdly on board, where she's just like, "Oh, you didn't get approval, huh?" Ha ha ha! Hilarious.
We should do evil stuff more often.
It's like, you're just like Curzon. He was secretly way more evil than you knew. It's awesome.
It's like, oh man, I have access to his inner thoughts, and it was fucked up. So anyway, probably should wrap it up there.
We still need a title review, I think.
Oh shoot, I always forget the title review. It's right there in my notes, really big. All right, what do you think of the title?
This is one that is definitely memorable for me. Like I connect this one with this episode. I don't know that I actually feel like we're doing anything for the uniform, but in my mind, I can connect that with like Eddington because he betrayed his uniform or whatever.
Sure.
So I don't know that it's exactly on target appropriate, but it's at least memorable, and I can relate it to the episode. So I think it's okay.
Well, I think it makes sense because Eddington betrayed the uniform, so now we have to, like, get Eddington for the uniform.
Okay.
We got to show that betraying the uniform is not something you can do.
Can't get away with that.
What's the uniform worth if people can do that? So, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's okay. It's a pretty good title.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can wrap it up.
Okie doke.
Unless you got final thoughts.
No.
All right. So, yeah. Thank you for joining us today. If you liked this review, you can go listen to our discussion of any of the Michael Eddington episodes.
There's just so many of them.
Right. What was that?
Is it For the Cause? Or
For the Cause sounds.
I just
right.
mentioned it earlier because it's like there's so many months between this one and that one. But
right. Oh, and that makes the title kind of.
Yeah, I was just thinking that same thing. Like, oh, that
kind of
the title kind of parallels. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll say it was For the Cause. Whatever For the Cause is, go and listen to that one.
It is. It's For the Cause. Yes.
Okay. Good. Yeah, so you can find all our episodes wherever you're listening to this. Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Apparently Google Podcasts does not exist anymore, so not there. Anyway, my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye. It's Data.
Bye.
We look forward to seeing you for our next discussion, but remember, don't stand between me and that criminal Jean Valjean.
that free loaf of bread.
He must pay.